Okay, so hello everyone. It's time for our first sync up session. To be honest, I saw lots of nice and cool work was done during this morning, during this day. Something crazy was happening on the phpstorm plugin. It's like incredible people, hard to stop them. So Vitaly, maybe you can a few words. What happens there, and maybe something you and your team can demonstrate.
Yeah, hello for those who joined just us. So yeah, we have a couple of pull requests finalized, and Yaro, would you like to show your one, this one regarding the line markers?
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen. I hope this time I will manage it without delays. Okay, please let me know if you see my screen.
Yeah.
Great. So yeah, this pull request is about the phpstorm plugin, and if you haven't tried it, I strongly recommend to try it because it makes Magento development much easier, especially now when we have a lot of really cool features there. And one of the cool feature was a possibility to go to the plugin. If some class has a plugin, you can go directly from line marker. I can show you, for example, if we have an action class and this class has some plugins, we can go directly to plugins by just clicking this icon. We can also go to the XML declaration. So if we go to XML declaration, the IDE will show all the places where we have declared plugin for this class, and we can go directly to the plugin implementation that way. And with this pull request, sorry about the noise in the background. With this pull request, we have another possibility to do vice versa. So if we have some plugin, we can go to the target class for this plugin and to the target method. So as you can see, we have like action plugin to the action class, and we can go directly to the target class by clicking the icon. And also, if we have a plugin method, we can go directly to the method for which this plugin method has been created in this way. Yeah, that's basically it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Holy moly, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really nice feature.
Yeah, guys, and if you need help actually to release update the package, on the repository. I mean, not in the code repository, but on the JetBrains. Yeah, just let us know, and we will help you to release the functionality.
Great.
Thank you.
Well,
Vitaly, you said you have more. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I have one more pull request from my side. I was finalizing the pull request. Well, can you see my screen, by the way?
Yes.
And now what do you see? Browser? What do you see?
Yes, the list of pull requests in the repository.
Okay, which is good. So, so the pull request was started by Roma Glushko, and I've finalized it. It's related to code generation, more precisely to block generation. Yeah, of course, the much better option for customization is create a view model instead of block. However, it can be some use case for creating a block. So I've created a action for this. So, and I would like to show you. Now you see a phpstorm, yes?
Yes.
Good. So it works when we right-clicking within any module folder. So let me click somewhere deep inside. Oh man. Okay, right here. Here we have group of action which are gonna be extended in future. We about to add all other tasks, all other files here. Now we only have Magento block, and of course we can reuse services used here for all other files, and reuse templates and so on. So let me click. And now we have suggested directory. We can add one if needed. For example, some directory. Yeah, and let's create some block. Okay, now we're ready to go. As you can see, a block was created and opened within a new directory. So that's it. It's pretty straightforward and not so complicated as creating a new module or creating a plugin, but however, it also might be useful for someone. Thank you. How to stop sharing?
Right, that's awesome.
Cool.
Maybe we will go next to the Adobe stock. I knew there were a few pull requests open. 3 or maybe Alex. Do you want to share it with us?
Hello. Yeah, I will show. 1 second, please. So yeah, today I continue work on a project, Adobe stock integration, and basically my focus was on code improvement, unit testing, and finalizing one of the maybe most important feature for us at this moment. Not feature, but maybe fix mostly. Yeah, and let me describe you from the minor to the major pull request I provided. So the first one is just a general cleanup, which we periodically do in order to improve the code quality. So I made some adjustments to the code style, some spelling fixes, and so on. So this pretty simple one. Next, I started to work on the unit test coverage for the media gallery UI module. This module is now in a pretty stable state, right? And I'm able to start working on this. So basically only one class is covered. And as Lukasz mentioned on one of his session, yeah, it's very important to write tests not only because you cover business logic and with this function, with tests, and make it more stable and reliable, but also you can refactor the implementation. And based on test, I made just a small adjustments, but it's a really good example of how writing unit tests and providing them to functionality can make your code better. So maybe this is the second one, and the final one is quite epic. So we found an issue with the Adobe stock asset save action, and working on this bug fix, we realized that some refactoring is needed, and it leads to the save common granulation. Yeah, right now we provided several classes which take responsibility on their own actions, and yeah, now it looks more technically right and stable. So yeah, that's all from my side for this moment.
Awesome, thank you. I also noticed that we had one pull request to the Magento coding standard from Andrew. Do you want to share this contribution with us?
Yes, one moment. Hello all. Today I have one pull request yet, and I I have found the problem in Magento coding standards with developer can use alias of discovered functions, and I think that it's not good. And I have added some. Oh, sorry, I don't share my screen. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it now.
Yes, and I have added some aliases for for existing functions, and I think it is good idea for me, and I and all. Sorry for my English.
Yeah, thanks. That's a good improvement because some cases were not covered before, and now we are like more safe with the list of functions that are discouraged for Magento.
Yeah, I know this guy.
Thanks again. Alex, Lizon, do you want to go next with your pull request?
Sure, why not? Yep, I worked on some improvements related to the asynchronous operation module. As I hope everybody know, I'm a fan of it. During the work with it, I detected one issue, which, well, let's call it feature. I don't want to call it bug. I guess you see now my screen and you see my SQL Pro, right?
Not yet.
Actually, I see black screen only for now.
Wait.
My SQL,
Yeah, we can see.
SQL Pro.
Now?
Yes, SQL Pro is now.
Yeah, good. Okay. After the module was migrated from Commerce to Open Source Edition, there were also some, like, let's call it improvement happened with it. And if you go to details, there's a table called Magento Bulk, which basically holds all bulk operations of the Magento itself. Oh, that's not only API, that's also MSI is using it and a lot of different implementation, including B2B, open source, and commerce. And here was added one column which named user type. That was nice. I mean, the user types are different user types which Magento has, and those users can also execute bulk operation in their own scopes. So that's 4 types existed. It's admin, integrator, customer, and guest. And everything quite nice here, except if I will show you one of the old implementations. So no, first of all, here you see now the Chrome, right?
No, still my SQL Pro. SQL Pro.
Oh, it's super fast, looks like. Wait, I will try to share again. Maybe it will be better. At least I hope so. Now.
Now we see black screen.
Yeah, it's a dark side.
Oh.
Okay, from now.
And now we see Edmonton.
Okay. So I assume there is a delay, and quite big delay. So in Magento, you have in a system bulk actions, you can see all bulk actions that were created in Magento in general by all users. And by default, this table is not filtered at all. So this means if you're admin, you can see all of them. But if you want to go in details, then there is a check switch check-in if you have a permission to see this this page. I honestly hope that you see what I'm doing. So yeah, you can go inside and there you can see all information about the operation that was created. But if you have a look on the source code, and now you have to see the GitHub.
No,
Not yet.
admin panel.
Okay, I will proceed to talk and you will tell me when you will see it. So in the whole system which managing the bulk operation statuses, there are no implementation which can filter anything by the user type. This means technically, if you open the bulk operation detail page or try to reschedule it, the system only checks if this user ID has an access to bulk operation you choose. And I guess all of you can understand the issue here that there can be the same user IDs for different user types. So there can be integration user with ID 1, there can be admin user with ID 1, customer or guest also. This means the permissions is not really works correctly. You always will see the whole, like if you are admin with user ID 1, you will see not only, you will have access not only to your operation, but also to other operations of other users which have the same ID. And yeah, I provided the pull request, which technically fixing that. It's adding the custom validator, which checking to which types of the permissions you have an access, so to which user types. And I also added the SEL role, like 3 new SEL resources for each of the user types. This means that you can define what you want to give the access to your admins. If you want to see that they see all operations, to see only guest customers, integration or admin. The pull request is, so the implementation is ready. I will be happy if somebody can review it, because I assume there can be some improvement, because it's quite a lot of files changed. The tests are not yet finished. I only aligned the unit tests and made the integration test works correctly with implementation, but there's still some stuff or some part of the code that has to be still covered, so I will proceed to work on this. Yeah, that's all for now. Basically, the demo is not so cool as I wanted to show it because of the huge delays, but I hope you understand the point.
I have a small question. Alex, did you make it the way that currently none of the admins can see others bulk running on or schedule it?
Yes, I mean, I added the 4 new SEL resources, which is giving you access to all admins, all integrations, all customers, and all guests, but they're all wrapped in another resource, which if you choose only this one and not choosing the child ones, you will see only yours.
Okay. I just remember that initially when we designed this functionality, we actually had an intention to show the planned work, and this way we wanted to prevent one admin to run a bulk job for the work which was already been scheduled by another admin. But you are right that we did not take into account different roles here. So there still might
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
I tried not to break the functionality. I mean, it's still supporting to see your own API calls, but honestly, from experience I had with working with it, there's sometimes very useful when you have your customer integrating something with Magento to see everything what are they doing without going to database. Igor, are you still here?
yeah, I am. So it like I really don't want so I believe your improvement definitely makes sense. We probably might make it even better, talking offline and just validating the business criteria. But currently, especially like taking into account that now I'm talking to Terminator, as your voices became totally digitalized, so I more than agree to have your contribution.
Awesome. Sounds cool. I'll be back.
Terminator, Jesus.
Thanks. Great. Anyone wants to present the contribution to Magento 2 project? I saw a few pull requests open today, but I don't know if you want to present that.
I can share mine. It's a quick refactoring. That's
Sure.
interesting.
Thanks.
Let me allow. So, can you see GitHub?
Yes, David, we can.
Yep.
Cool. So, yeah, basically, while doing some work yesterday for a project, I found that this method move file from temporary is calling a static method, which annoyed me because I couldn't then test it properly. So what I wanted to do was do a bit of refactoring and extract this method out into a class. So that's all I've done is I've injected the new class. The new class just has the existing static method, but as a standalone method. And I've covered it with a few tests. Happy for any feedback. It probably doesn't make sense to have a class just for the file name lookup. Maybe it makes a bit more sense to put it in with other file classes, but I'm happy for any feedback on that. It basically just means that the file lookup is for category images at the moment. So when you upload an image, if the image is not a unique name, it will make sure that it is a unique name. So that's all it does. That's it.
Thanks, David, for presenting this. Anyone else? Come on, don't be shy.
I have few
Great.
updates from the Waymo side, because actually I'm one, and I'll try to share my screen, and we'll present three different tasks which we worked for today. First one is related to the alignment of terms and condition checkbox. As you can see in mobile, it looks awful. Our guy, its name Christos, worked with it, and unfortunately he have other plans for this time, so he shared like a video with the result of his work. So as you can see, it looks a little bit better, but as he said, it was really difficult, and this is something that he still need to finish before he will create the pull request. And the second one is related to the checkout agreements. It was related to that possibility to use WYSIWYG editor for these terms and conditions checkout agreements. and it's few steps to create a pull request, which is done by Evgeny, which will be done by Evgeny Dymsky. And the last is already a pull request, not just a words. I just some time ago noticed that Magento has such great folder with tests which called integrity tests, and one of these tests I really love, which has name dependency tests, which actually run and check if your model has correctly declared dependencies. And I was fall in love with this test and decided it will be really great, not only use it with Magento, but also try to use it in the real project. And unfortunately, I found few places which prevent me to do so, because there are few places which seems to be like hard-coded to work only with Magento, and only in Magento, which is placed in the GitHub repository. I did two small fixes. First one is related. It's the really interesting stuff is if you have the file name, you need to find which class it contains. And the second one is just to remove hard codes on the Magento namespace. Also, I was very surprised because I found tests which used to cover the Magento static tests. So it seems to be like a recursion. And those few things need to be done to make it work with new changes, and it is it. So probably it will be helpful not only for me, but also someone would like to use this dependency test on their projects. And we also have one more guy from Waymo who would like to tell about his progress. So Ledian, please.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So let me try to share my screen. I'm not sure. Okay, this. Can you see my screen now? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Okay, so there was an issue which was replicated from Alexander, and I assigned this issue to me, and the issue was related to the store view about the cash delivery payment method, which was showing the wrong title of this method. Let me find quickly the issue which is assigned to me, or probably I can find better from here as I did. So yeah, this is the issue. So it is very detailed from Alexander. So the store label was not displaying properly on the admin page. So on the order view, when you go under, for example, for each store, for example, if I place an order on second store or different store, it was showing the store title from the default store. I did some debugs from database and everything looks okay, but the issue was that the store ID was not properly sent for this one on. So it is showing correctly now, as I did some a small code which I added like the store code, the store ID here. So I added this here, but by doing some debug, the one which had issues was under. Wait a second. Track. So here was the issue. So this store ID was like empty. Even here it was coming as empty. So it was always for the cash on delivery method. It was always this coming as null, and the value was from the default store view. So the one that I did now, I created this pull request, but I think I haven't detailed very good this pull request I did. So this is the only change what I did for now. Let me see pull requests. I'm not sure if I can filter mine.
You can press pull requests in the top near the search bar.
Okay, so
maybe you created PR in your fork, but not on the Magento fork. Ah, yeah, here it is. Okay.
Yeah, this one I have to update this description, but to see the change list is only this line which did the work for this case. So I think it needs a really great code review from you guys, and yeah. Also, I think those tests needs to be finished. And I'll update this this description and the other things here. So the one that took more time was the debugging, because I went through everything. And also I want to thank Alexander, who helped me with this one as well. So thank you guys. This was the fix from me for today.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Oh, we now can see your contribution day buddies on the screen. That's nice. Also, I wanted to say that Alexander, right after the demos, Alexander will present like he will have a quick presentation about static checks in Magento, so stay tuned. Who else wants to add anything? Maybe present something. Do we have any updates from the dev docs or merge docs team?
Yeah, hi everybody. We actually did get a PR to dev docs for a new topic related to the sort by UI component. I don't know if the contributor is on the call and would like to present that, but let me see, I can show it here. So it's already gone through our editorial review. It just needs to go through a technical review, and then we can get it merged into our 2.4.0 develop branch. So this is really really great. We really love to see these type of contributions to docs, especially when they're related to code contributions, like this one. So big shout out to Shankar here. Thanks.
Yeah, probably he's not on the call. It's like too late right now for their time zone. But yeah, that's one of our famous contributor for sure.
Okay, guys, let's wrap up for the sync up. For this demo sessions and move to the Alex presentation. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, actually, it's not goodbye. We can just stay on the call.
Stay and see.
Have, yeah, right now we have a technical problem on this call. So if you're interested. Alex?
Yes.
Okay, it's your turn.
Okay, thank you. I will try to share my screen again.
Okay.
Okay. Now you should see something.
Yes, we do see a presentation.
Yeah, cool. So, as we have today a contribution day related to Magento, I would like to talk about a little bit about Magento, but not only about Magento. Actually, it was started like Magento, and today I'm going to talk about how to time Magento static test beast. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Alexander Kravchuk. I'm working as backend developer at Waymo, United Arab Emirates. I'm certified Magento developer, contributor, maintainer, and Magento Master 2020. And I understand that even Magento Master write a bad code. And today I would like to talk a little what you can do to avoid situations like this. And the best core for this is, of course, to write tests. And let's play a little. I will show schematically the chart flow of test, and you need to guess which kind of test I'm trying to describe. Any suggestions? Okay, it's a unit test, so you receive some information as an input to your test, you interact with some isolated part of the code, and in result you compare results of your execution of the code and with your expected result. And a little bit more complex.
Integration test. My options to the chat, so just do not spam everyone.
Okay, please talk because I have like open a screen with the presentation and cannot see the chat. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Integration. Yeah.
Yes, you are right. This is integration test. So to our isolated part of the code, we add all other code of the system, or all other parts of the code system, and of course there can be added some different resources like a database in this example. And this?
Functional testing.
Yeah. Yes, you are right. So in this case, you have like two different applications. First one is busy to write the test, and second one is busy to execute the functionality, the behavior. And here we have like a separation between these two parts. Actually, it can be like one code base, but it still communicates with some middle environment. In our case, it can be like HTTP protocol. So when you write MFTF tests, you use browser emulator to make calls to your Magento with HTTP. And the same when you write functional tests to test API, you make calls with a curl client. And this one.
It sounds like static analysis.
Yes, you are right. This is a static analysis. So as input, we receive not information, but the code. Our tests have some rules, and the result is check if code is matching the rules. And I think the most brilliant thing that in case of static tests, you need to fix the code, but not like write a new tests, usually. And if we can check what kind of static tests have Magento, we can separate like 4 different groups. First one is live code tests, which I'll talk a little bit later. Second one is JSTS, which actually call Jasmine, which executes all static checks for the JavaScript. And there's a group of integrity tests, which make some sanity checks of your application and check that everything is okay. For example, that you have declared all required dependencies in your model and etc. And legacy tests, which avoid you from mistakes of the past. And if you look deeper in the live code tests group, there are 4 subgroups: GraphQL, PHP, Less, and HTML. Most of them are just calling code sniffer for files with certain extension. The PHP group has 6 subgroups, which call different tools to make some checks in the PHP. But if we look for compatibility, strict types, and copy paste, it's pretty easy how it works. But for code style, code method, static analysis, it's become more interesting. In this case, static analysis, I mean the testing of the code with the static analyzer. So, because actually it's everything about static analysis. And let's start from the code style check. Assume that we have some code, and the first thing which I try to do when I receive some code to check it, or to make a code review, I try to read it. For human beings, it's pretty easy to read some text, but if we start to think how to optimize it and make this check automatically, it's become a little bit tricky, because we can read in different way. We can read by symbol, or we can read word by word, separate them with spaces, and etc. Fortunately, we can use specific thing which use PHP, not just any interpreter. Before it starts to execute the code, it's read it and interpret it with tokens, tokenize it. And fortunately, we are working with the best programming language in the world, with the PHP, and it's pretty easy to receive the list of this tokenized list of tokens, which before it will be executed. So if you say PHP, please provide me tokens for this part of code, you will receive the picture like this. And from this, we can simply understand that it's really difficult to understand anything from this. But for PHP code sniffer, you will say that you violated PSR2 rule and you forget to mention the new line at the end of the file. And the most interesting thing that in such case we are working with regularity. We know that, for example, in our code, if we have a function declaration, that there should be a white space. After white space, there should be a name of the function, but in some cases there can be no name because it can be an anonymous function, and then there can be type declaration, or there cannot be. If we have a type declaration, then it must be a white space and must be a variable, or there can be any variables. So this information is pretty enough to make testing works, except if you would like to check that this code is full of some coding standards. If every new line is placed correctly, that every space is placed correctly, and etc. But what's the problem with this check? That it provides only how code looks like, without any understanding of the real meaning of this code. It's like I don't know, if someone asked me to read Chinese, I can see this hieroglyphs, but I do not understand anything. And to try to reach some meaning of what is written here, there are really tricky things that exist. And one of the things has name abstract syntax tree. So one of the way to show that to extract some meaning from the code. So how it works? It works the same as it works with the tokenizer. It's reach the tokens from the code, and then it's build a syntax tree. But before this, let's come back to our example. What we can see here, we have on the top level, we have two things to do. First one is to declare a function, and second one is to call this function with the echo. When inside the function we have if statement with with its own condition and statement which will be executed. This if also have else if with its condition statement and have else with its statement. And if we build the abstract syntax tree for this, we will see a picture like this. So actually totally the same. On the top level we have, like, from the root we have two subnodes. First one is the function declaration, second one is the echo with the function call and the argument which being passed. This function declaration we have we have subnode with parameters and subnode with the statements which include this function. And the statement we have only one, it's a if, which is condition and statement which being executed in the case of if condition is passed. And we have else if with its condition and statement, and also we have else with its own condition. Most interesting thing that in case of abstract syntax tree, all your leaves will be some scalar values or just variables. And this is pretty enough to have some not only like view of the code, but also to have some meaning of the code. Because, for example, if you can find some node which is related to the class, you can calculate the number of dependencies which this class has, or you can check the deeps of some separated nodes to check the NPath complexity. And this is actually with which PHP mess detector works. It builds the abstract syntax tree with the pedefense library and use PHP reflection to collect different metrics and check if your code is good enough to meet this metrics or not. And there also is an alternative library which called PHP parser, which wrote by Nikita Popov. It provides possibility not only to build abstract syntax tree, but also creates a visitor which can traverse this tree. And the visitor has two different events. First one is enter the node. It's, for example, when you meet any node, you will enter the node will be event called. And after you will reach all child of this node and will leave from this node to its parent, there will be called event leave node. And for example, how it can be used? It can be used to, first of all, is to read the tree and collect different metrics. And second way is it can be used to modify the tree. For example, if we have task to check our code and remove all var dumps, which someone just debugged the code and wrote few var dumps and forget it. We would like to avoid such situations. We can create a visitor which will run across the builded tree, and we'll check if it has any nodes which are expression as a function and the function name is vardump. He will call the event to remove this node. In result, we will receive abstract syntax tree without the vardump nodes, and we can make transformation back from the tree to the code and write it, and voila, we refactored this code with automatic rules. And probably someone can think that it's a really good idea to create some automatization in this case and provide some framework to simply write rules and actions which need to be done in some cases, and do the refactoring of some routine things are automated and easy. And unfortunately, this tool already exists. It has name PHP Rector. It's a code reconstructor tool which uses abstract syntax tree and static analysis to modify and refactor code according to the specific rules which you can specify. The most interesting thing which I heard about this tool, it was a presentation of one guy, actually I don't remember the name, the last year in the Kiev, the PHP FW Days conference. He shared the case when they used this tool to refactor, actually not refactor, to migrate from native framework to Symfony. And there is the size of changes which were done. And they spent like 100 hours. It was really surprising for me because 100 hours for me it's not enough to migrate. Not migrate, to upgrade Magento from 2.2 to 2.3, but it's a really interesting case. I don't know should we believe it or not, but in any way we have a tool which can automatically refactor the code. And finally, about static analysis. I mean, run analysis with static analyzers. So how it works? First of all, we need to load codebase. And then we need to build the tokens from this codebase. We can use a PHP tokenizer here. And then we need to build abstract syntax tree. We can use the PHP parser library. And then we can analyze this abstract syntax tree with our static analyzer and receive results of this analysis. And what static analyzer can do? He can check PHP syntax, just that syntax is okay. Anyone don't miss the semicolon. It also can check that all methods, variables, functions, classes, and constants which you used they exist. And it also can check that PHP and docs are up to date in your code. And the most powerful and brilliant things of the static analyzers and the static analysis at all is that it can make checks with the type in which you write. So, for example, that if your function is expecting to receive the argument string, first argument is string, it will check that all places where your function is being called, the string is passed. And vice versa, when your function is expected to return Boolean value, it will check that in any return you have in your function will return the Boolean value. Actually, this is the most thing which differ the static analyzers from the PHP mess detector. About static analyzers, what have in open source? There are 3 on this market, not market, open source. Pan, which was started by Rasmus Lerdorf, one of the founders of PHP. Psalm, which was started by company Vimeo, and phpstorm, which was started by guys from Czech. And what about Magento? I guess that the most reason of which static analyzer was chosen by Magento was the abusing of usage of magic methods, because the most important thing for static analysis is to have strict types, but not only strict, just types declared. It can be not only strict types in the code, it can be types in the docs. But in case of using magic methods, it makes really difficult to check it and to follow it. And in result, it makes the static analysis not so helpful. And actually, the phpstorm is the only static analyzer which can work with these magic methods. So the selection was obvious. And one of the advantages of phpstorm that it can run not the check for the whole codebase, but run the check for the some specific files. In this case, Pan static analyzer is to be like an orthodox static analyzer, because it just read the whole files in your project. It's built the giant abstract syntax tree and started to analyze the whole tree, and we can just imagine which terrible things we can find there. Which terrible things can be found there. And it do not interact with your code directly. It only reads your code like some just a text. But phpstorm can interact with your code in case when it's run for just a few files, it can find, I don't know, some references for another classes which it doesn't know. And in result, it will use your afterload file to load this file and interact with them to make the analysis complete without just showing the error that you're using some not existing class. Very smart in this case. And they're really easy API, not easy, just wide API, and easy to extend API and add your own rules for your own checks. And actually is how to run Magento static tests. Probably after this contribution, I think most of us will know this. And there's a little bit about this configuration file. So you can, for example, it can be useful not for contributing to Magento, because when you contribute to Magento, all configurations are required to follow, because GitHub will not pass your pull request. But actually, if you would like to use a static test on your project, on a commercial project, you can edit this file and run only some of them, which can be really useful for you. At least I think that live code tests are really useful for any project. And it's it. Thank you for your attention. Probably you have any questions.
Yes, thank you, Alex. Yeah, we got a question. It was from one member of. So he is asking, how long would it take to migrate projects from Symfony to Magento 2 with this tool?
Actually, this is a good question, because this is a good question because it really depends. It really depends on the level of customizations and etc. In the case of this migration from native to Symfony, they searching not for code to migrate, they searching for the patterns to migrate. For example, they had more than 100 different roles which they use as the API, and the only thing they need to do is to migrate some framework stuff, like my class blah 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 extends class blah 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 too, and you need just to switch this extendance and probably change some arguments which being passed to the computer to the constructor. And I think it really depends. Probably there can be some examples of guys who try it.
Yeah, probably if you can consult Igor Minailo on this, he will be happy. This question was from him. Okay. Thank you, Alexander. Thank you so much.